Have you ever wondered what qualities set millionaires apart and drive their success? It turns out that a critical factor in generating their success may have manifested from their personalities. Hello, my loves. Welcome back to episode 2 of my podcast. Today I'm going to be discussing how self discipline is the key to success. So, there was a study conducted on the personality traits of self made millionaires. Researchers established a common denominator among the attitudes, behaviors, and goals among the wealthiest individuals. The study found that all self made millionaires had high levels of the following traits: openness, extroversion, and conscientiousness. In today's episode, I'd like to dive deeper into conscientiousness. So, a person with a high level of this trait can be described as responsible, organized, goal oriented, reliable, committed, and you guessed it, disciplined. Discipline is a key factor in conscientiousness since it forms the basis for routine, self control, and commitment despite distractions. What I aim to highlight here is the importance of resisting short term gratification for long term rewards. Now, let's take a look at the opposite of this personality trait and see if you align with any of these characteristics. Traits such as carelessness, impulsivity, spontaneity, disorganization, and procrastination. Now, let's expand on the procrastination piece. People who procrastinate are shown to have a harder time at achieving their goals due to falling victim to short term, immediate rewards. It's something we all experience, however, I feel like with the increase of technology over the past decade, society is losing its grasp on self control, especially with our phones. Our dopamine receptors are frying from this addiction, and it's become a weakening tool which is fueling our procrastination. In a study on procrastination and brain pathways, researchers have established that the process of procrastination begins with an anxiety specific brain pattern. From that brain pattern, it can either go the route of procrastination or it can be mediated with self control. Additionally, the participants in the study who went through training to build their self control were found to be much more efficient in achieving their long term goals. This proves that a strong sense of self control plays a huge role in the success of your future. Now, I know what you're thinking. It's normal to get lazy. Everybody skips XYZ once in a while, whether it's work, whether it's the gym, whether it's school, but not everybody is going to reach the level of success that you aspire to achieve. Please remind me when you decided you wanted to be like everybody else. Remind me when you decided you wanted your life to be normal. So, if you have big dreams, then conforming to normal is not going to get you there. Why would you follow other people's habits and actions unless you want to end up just like them? It kind of reminds me of the quote, don't take advice from somebody who you would not want to switch lives with. Just because it's the norm does not mean it's a good thing. A quote that stood out to me from the novel Leaders Eat Last by Simon Sinek is destructive abundance almost always follows when a challenge is replaced by a temptation. In simpler terms, when people replace their challenges with temptation, they are actively choosing immediate pleasure over progress and effort. At first, it may lead to a quick pump of dopamine, but after that, it nearly always ends up in long term harm. One thing you're going to be weakening is your self control and letting go of the reins of your mind. If you keep choosing the pleasurable route, how will you ever climb the ladder of reaching your goals and getting to the rewarding path? Being lazy instead of dedicating time to work, spending beyond your means instead of saving, and indulging in distractions instead of fueling your self growth. These are all situations where we have the choice to apply self control or to conform to our temporary desires. Now, the big question is how can you develop your self control? Well, it's made up of several components, such as impulse control, emotional regulation, habit formation, delayed gratification, focus, and willpower. Let's start with habit formation. Developing routines naturally reinforces self discipline and self control. An example is routine in faith. The structured routine that Islam provides of praying 5 times a day naturally strengthens your willpower. By pushing past the procrastination, pausing what you're doing in your day, and committing to completing your prayer, this helps train the mind to resist impulses. But you can also just develop routines throughout your day. For example, having set habits in the morning which create routine and organization. Personally, I always wake up 2 hours before I have to go anywhere, whether it's school, work, or an event, because I like to engage in slow mornings so that I can have a routine of drinking my tea, eating a proper breakfast, making myself look presentable by doing my skincare, finding a nice outfit. These are things that help me develop a consistent routine. Now, you may have heard the phrase that it takes 21 days to form a habit, but how do we even begin? We can take a strategy from behaviorism and psychology to build better habits and eliminate ones that we do not like. Skinner's operant conditioning consists of positive or negative reinforcement or punishment. So, positive is when you add something, negative is when you take something away, and reinforcement is if you want to increase the behavior, and punishment is when you want to take away the behavior. So, you can have positive punishment, positive reinforcement, or you can have negative punishment or negative reinforcement. Positive reinforcement is a conditioning tool that's been proven to achieve results. It's when you add a reward to increase a behavior. An example could be that you want to start implementing the practice of arriving to school or work early to be more productive with your time. To reinforce that behavior, the days that you do arrive early, you can reward yourself with something like a coffee. Contrary to that, you can also discipline yourself by using negative punishment to reduce certain behaviors. For example, if you've been procrastinating on work, take away something like your phone until you've met a certain milestone in your productivity. So you can power off your phone, put it in another room, and set a goal for yourself. For example, 1 hour of intense focused work, or completing 3 paragraphs of your essay before you can check your phone again. The same way you discipline a child, you have to apply those techniques to your mind in order to gain self control over your behaviors. Another way we can work towards a high level of self control and self discipline within us is by regulating our emotions. When we have an emotional buildup within ourselves, it can be harder to control our reactions. Our ability to think rationally and react calmly becomes overwhelmed by these intense feelings. There is also an Islamic hadith which we can relate to this. The strong is not the one who overcomes the people by his strength, but the strong is the one who controls himself while in anger. In other words, having true strength is having control over your emotions. And self restraint is often a valuable tool which is overlooked by physical power. My favorite way to regulate my emotions and internal subconscious is to journal. Now, you won't really understand the power that a journal holds until you use it as a constant outlet. I love to use my journal as a mind dump to take a load off of my overthinking. And if you want a video on some journal prompts and how to get started on journaling, let me know because I would love to do that. Now, in addition to journaling, having a planner and calendar is also a great way to be organized, to relieve anxiety, and plan out your time. This is my weekly planner, and every week I like to write down all of my deadlines, all of my obligations. So I'll put my lecture times, the time I'm going to go to the gym, anything I have due that day, and I also schedule out time to study. By seeing a visual of all my obligations for the week, I'm able to establish priorities between productivity and relaxation. I used to only keep a calendar and a planner on my iPad, but I realized that physically writing things down is actually a lot more beneficial. So now I always keep my planner in my school tote bag, and it works as a great reminder for me. Now, the last component of self control that I'm going to touch on is delayed gratification. I'm going to give another example from my religious beliefs. So, praying for things that I know I'm not going to receive right away. It requires patience and full trust in God, and in Islam we call this sabr and tawakkul. It teaches you delayed gratification because although you might not get what you ask for right away, you still have to trust and ask God and put in the action and effort to getting to that goal. Delayed gratification can also be strengthened by using your willpower to limit yourself from quick dopamine. For example, when you want to watch Netflix or doom scroll on your phone, override that temptation and choose to engage in a hobby that you've been putting off for a while. Things like reading, hiking, going to the gym, baking, cooking, or maybe organizing something around the house. These are tasks that are rewarding and low dopamine activities. So it's much more beneficial to the wiring of your brain and your self control and self discipline in the long term. So, to summarize, if you want to be successful in this life, you have to address the following. First, evaluate how well you regulate your emotions. Reflect on pent up feelings that may be subconsciously piling up and triggering you. Use a tool such as journaling and prayer to work through the thoughts and emotions that are clouding your mind. Next, review your level of productivity versus procrastination. Do you feel fulfilled with the work that you're completing? If you feel like procrastination overtakes your productivity, then consider practices of delayed gratification. Ask yourself, do you let the temptation of giving into your desires win? Do you actively choose quick dopamine instead of mindfulness? Once you've recognized your poor habits that are keeping you in this constant state of mediocrity, create a game plan on how you can add rewards or take away something to increase or decrease certain behaviors. Now, with the understanding of those self control concepts, you'll be able to contribute to the strength of your self discipline. While self control impacts your short term actions, self discipline is your ability to stay committed over a long period of time, even when you have no motivation. This is why motivation is not what's going to help you achieve your goals. It's not what's going to get you to the top. Because once the motivation dies down, what's left? You want a nice physique? You need the discipline to stick to the diet and be consistent in the gym. You want the degree? You need the discipline to put effort into your studies and show up to class. Now, the thing is, your motivation in school, in the gym, it often dies down and we all experience lows. But your self-discipline is what's going to push you through all of the difficult times despite a lack of motivation, feeling tired, feeling burnt out, and uninspired. Once the muscle of self-discipline is strengthened, it's not going to fade away the same way that motivation does. Because motivation is external. You have to go out and find inspiration, while self-discipline is internal and you have control over strengthening it, regardless of environmental factors. It just relies on you taking the reins of your mind back. The path to achieve success is all about identifying the areas of improvement and choosing to feel the discomfort for the sake of your growth. Now, back to the guiding point of the conversation, the characteristic of conscientiousness. I don't want to hear the excuse that you can't change your personality because you were born with it. In psychology, we agree on nature and nurture. So, yes, you do get some of your traits inherently, but environmental impacts also shape your genetic makeup and how you present those characteristics, your personality. You really just have to force yourself out of your comfort zone. If you're not a structured and organized person, then become one. If you act on spontaneity and impulse, then start becoming more mindful and intentional of your actions. Start now. With that being said, I hope you enjoyed this episode and now have a clear understanding on the value of self-discipline in becoming a successful individual. And if you found this content to be beneficial, don't forget to share it with a friend who you feel could use this message. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.